To me, it seems like there's two extremes forming in the world today regarding our health and well-being. There's those who are spending huge amounts of time and money in search of the perfect body. But at the same time, there's those who eat unhealthily and actually exercise less. So is our modern day lifestyle making it harder for us to look after ourselves? Join me for real stories, real issues, and real views. This is Real Talk. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show. I'm your host Ghalib Khan, and for the next 50 minutes, I'll be addressing the topics that you want covered and asking the questions that are important to you. Now, on today's show, we're looking at our modern day lifestyle and we're having a look at health and fitness. Why is it becoming such a hot topic at the moment? And are we taking our mental and physical well-being seriously? Well, to help answer these questions, I'm joined by a panel of experts here today. I'm just going to introduce them for you right now. First of all, I'm joined by Azza Salim. Welcome to Real Talk. Azza is a general practitioner from the London area. And next, I have Dr. Elizabeth Weissel-Brown. Welcome to the show. She's a nutritional scientist from the British Nutrition Foundation. And finally, last but not least, we've got James Hardy, who's also a fitness trainer. Welcome to Real Talk to all of you. So that's our expert panel that we have, and as usual, I'm joined in the studio by an audience as well, who are going to be adding in their input throughout the program. But first of all, let's find out what the general public think about this. Obviously, it's something that affects them. So let's take a listen to the word on the street.
There are over 1 billion overweight people in this world, a third of which are considered to be obese. Much of the blame is in our increasingly desk-bound lifestyles, where we consume a lot more than our ancestors. Yet, physically demanding work has become increasingly scarce. In recent years, the government has played a more active role in trying to attack this problem and fighting this epidemic. There's been a lot more awareness about this issue amongst adults and children.
You joined me in Fulham, where I've just come to meet James Hardy, who runs Live Fit. Hello, James.
Hello, how are you doing?
James is hopefully going to show us some things that we can do at home to maintain our bodies. So, James, what are you going to show us today?
So, Amir, we're going to do a really simple workout today that, using hardly any equipment, anyone can do at home. That'd be really useful for them to do maybe 3 times a week, twice a week, once a week. That will help them to improve the tone of their body, lose weight, and to increase their strength. Okay, so all workouts need to start with a warm-up. Okay, so we're just going to start with a simple jog on the spot. And we continue this for 3 or 5 minutes. Maybe we're going to mix it in with a few different exercises. So we'll go into those now. We'll start with a squat. Our feet slightly wider than our hips, toes slightly pointing out. Okay, and we're just going to drop down nice and slowly, keeping the stomach tight, head up tall. You shouldn't do that, okay? So your head's up nice and tall there. Okay, body's straight, back straight. Knees are over your toes, not doing that. Okay, knees out there. Another one that we can do is a lunge move, which is like a big step. So we're going to step forwards, really stable, okay? So don't go too fast. We want you to be smooth and accurate. Okay, we're going to just step out there and come back up again. Okay, so we're going to just do that at a slightly faster pace. Okay, so you're nice and stable, heads up tall. Your shin should be vertical there. That just increases the safety for your knee. All right, we're going to move a little bit further up the body, trying to mobilize your back, your hips. We'll take that same position we had for the squat. Okay, so feet slightly wider than your hips. And sitting down into it slightly, hands are up here. And we're just going to rotate all the way around. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, you can reach the hands up at the end. Just start moving your shoulders. Okay, and the final one. We're going to start with a hug, and then your arms are going to spread open wide. That's it, and then back and the other way now. Other arm high. That's it, fantastic. Really good for your posture, this exercise. Opening out your chest and your shoulders. This exercise will help you to open out and stand a little bit taller. So 4 exercises, which if you do them back to back, get slightly out of breath. get a bit of a sweat on. And the idea is that you use those 4 exercises as a circuit, which you could go around 3 times, 4 times, something like that. Depends on how much time and effort you want to put into it. And that will cover your body everywhere to do some toning and strengthening work.
Well, thank you, James. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure there's something for everybody at home. And it's really great that you don't really need much space, you don't really need much specialized equipment, and it's really easy to do. Even if, like you said, you're not working out, you can use them just to stretch and relieve your body. Thank you very much. My pleasure. Back to the studio.
So that was the word on the street, and one of the main elements that came across in that was that it's to do with people's lifestyle. I think a lot of people are saying they're finding it harder and harder to maintain their health. As turning to you, as a general practitioner, you have a lot of involvement with the general public, and is that something that you would agree with, that people are finding it actually harder to maintain that physical well-being?
Definitely. I think it's become an increasingly difficult problem, and one of the examples I'd be able to give is with obesity, which is a big problem now. And a lot of people, when they are coming to the GP and saying, you know, I can't maintain my weight, right. And it's you know, they're having trouble with this. A lot of them are having these troubles because they're not able to find time or make time right. to be able to do the exercise or to be able to fit this into their normal daily lifestyle. And that's where one of the big problems comes. And then if you go into diet as well, things like fast food or snacking or eating on the go is another big problem. So definitely.
Elizabeth, turning to you in terms of nutrition, and do you find people actually more aware of actually nutrition and what foods they should be eating, or do they just generally not really care?
I think that people do become more and more aware because there have been quite a few health campaigns to make the public aware of how important it is to eat healthy. And people often do know what to eat, what they should eat, and what they should eat less of. But it is sometimes perceived as being really hard to implement in your daily life. Some find that, or have the perception that it takes a lot of time to prepare a healthy meal, which it doesn't. You can make a quick stir fry with some vegetables and pasta in 20, 30 minutes.
Later on in the program as well. Hope we can touch on some practical tips about foods and everything. James, turning to you, do you find that it's actually a trend where people are actually engaging more in fitness, and do you find that you're actually finding more work as well as a fitness trainer?
I think more and more people are exercising, and they do know about exercise and the benefits of it. I think probably the people that I come into contact with are the people that are a bit more converted already. Mm-hmm. And I think really underneath that there's quite a large undercurrent of people not doing the exercise. I think most people know the benefits of it. You know, we're in a society now where we've come on that level that the information's out there, but not everybody's taking it.
Okay, well, we've got some young people here in the audience today. Let me just ask you, do you actually find the time to exercise in your lifestyles at the moment? What's your daily routine like? Is it true that you can only exercise when you're really young and then after that you get too old?
Well, I started when I was about 4 doing martial arts.
Okay.
And that was twice a week for about 2 hours every session. But I saw that as I grew up, because the exercise was related to progressing through grades, or if you're in a football club, you progress through the team. Yeah. Then it's better for the youngster to have that rather than just playing in a kind of recreational way. Okay.
So how old are you at the moment?
19 years old.
Okay, and so you're probably doing A-levels or at university?
Degree, just starting my degree, yeah.
So even with that university timetable, do you find that there's actually time for you to do extracurricular activities and exercise and things like that?
It just depends if you want to make the time, really, because even though my schedule has become more hectic because of my degree and doing my other work that I do, either charity work or any other work, I still make time 2 hours in a day to do my martial arts, and I don't have to actually do it in a certain place. I can do it at home, or I can do it at my university. So it can be flexible like that.
Okay. All right, just look around. There seem to be some working professionals here as well. Let's get some more points of view. Are there any difficulties that you find in actually making time for exercise?
Yeah, I would tend to disagree with some of the people who've made comments that people don't have time. I think it's actually a fact of some people being lazy. I think you need to really create a work-life balance. Now, I'm a solicitor, and you know, I work long hours every day. But the fact of the matter is that you need to create time in your schedule, set aside time, for example, either start early. I've got people at work who, for example, go swimming at 7 o'clock in the morning and then come into work, or jog into work and then have a shower at work and then start their work, or even at lunchtime, you know, they go out, have a bite to eat, but also go to the gym.
I think there are people who actually are able to maintain that balance and make it work. James, just turning to you, is it an issue of motivation? Do you just simply need to motivate yourself to put in that extra time?
It is down to motivation, and really, I mean, I fully understand the people who say that there isn't enough time in their day, because it is difficult, you know, and there are many, many things that you have to do in your week, but really, you should consider the exercise as a non-negotiable. You know, it should be something that's
And when we talk about exercise, there's a specific amount that you should do a day, or how much should you do in a week?
Well, I mean, there are government recommendations that you should do half an hour a day of moderate level exercise at least 5 times a week. I mean, personally, I would say that that is lifestyle. You know, that is walking to work, cycling to work. Those are the basic level things you need to stay relatively healthy. But that's not really fitness. You know, and I would say that most people would benefit from doing a little bit more. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, this is my end of the spectrum, that people should actually be challenging themselves a little bit and improving the lungs and their heart. And that should be something that you, as you say, have to schedule in, because it is very important. And there's a saying that if you don't find time to be healthy now, you'll certainly have to make time to be ill later.
That's true. As a GP, what would you say to that? Would you agree?
I think that's, I agree 100% with that. And I would actually add in that people say that it's their career, and that's why they can't make the time.
But that seems to be their priority.
That's the priority. That's what usually is a priority. Or even some people who have kids. But you won't be able to have that career or have that time with the kids if you're so ill. So it's almost like it doesn't make sense that you're putting so much time into that area. Obviously, there are certain times when people are unable to do that. For example, if the job means that they're working 6 or 7 days a week, or they're doing, you know, certain shifts and they can't get out of it, that's different. But on the whole, they need to look at their whole life and their whole career and the personal life and all of these things.
Taking a holistic view of the whole situation.
Exactly.
Elizabeth, just turning to you, I mean, we've talked about exercise, but what role does nutrition play in all of this?
It's obviously also a really important part of you staying healthy. If we eat wrong, we have a higher risk of different diseases. We have a higher risk of having heart disease, stroke, cancer, and so on. But at the same time, we also risk of not getting enough of some very important nutrients. People often perceive it as being really hard to eat healthily, and I think certain things are forbidden, but that's not true. You can, if you eat a healthy, balanced diet, the great thing is that it doesn't matter that if sometimes you eat something that's maybe not that healthy, and you are allowed to have little treats in between. It's all about the balance.
Right. So, I mean, in terms of, when you've got young people here, do you feel that they're educated enough at school? Are they taught actually that this is the right foods that you should eat in terms of nutrition? Do you think there's enough education out there for them?
I think it has increased in the past years, and it is still increasing. Cooking is being made compulsory. It is compulsory at certain levels. I think that's absolutely important, because very often parents don't know how to cook. How should the children learn how to prepare a healthy food? And we do a lot of work with teachers, teaching them how to teach nutrition to children. And they are really interested. They love hearing about it. And so that's definitely a critical age where you can influence them. And so I think that's
let's stay on that point, just moving to the audience. I mean, we talked about nutrition, eating the right sort of food. Shazza, do you want to add something in?
Yeah, just I think some of it, there's actually a lot of information out there, but sometimes, you know, for want of a better phrase, to digest it sometimes in the right way, or to find out what is, you know, the best thing for you. Sometimes there's too much information out there. I mean, so many times, I mean, from the gym perspective, everyone will tell you, okay, eat a certain amount of protein, etc. So food is, you know, you can understand that, but then there's so much information in terms of supplements and these kind of things on the market, whereby not only protein supplements, but fat burning tablets, these type of things. And, you know, I always have that sort of worry that, fine, they may be shortcuts, or there may be actually things that do work. You know, what's the case and what are the side effects of these kind of, you know, supplements, you know, because I'm sure over the last 30, 40, 50 years, people's foods, tastes and intake has changed. Yes. But now that people are doing these sort of, you know, chemically driven supplements, you know, how does that all fit in?
That's a good point. But, James, you know, looking at the fitness market, there's been a huge boom in that, hasn't it? Can you shed some light on that?
I mean, it's massive now. And obviously, you know, it's, as ever with most food industries, it's money driven. You know, those companies are out there to sell their products and to make money. That's not to say that necessarily that food product, that supplement is bad, but you know, you have to bear in mind that's where they're coming from. So there's always going to be a certain amount of marketing hype and, you know, this new ingredient, this new product, you know, we've got the finest, most isolated protein, etc., etc. But, you know, but I think most of those products are probably okay for you. And there's probably very little difference between all of them. It's more about the labeling. And
yeah, I mean, we're going to touch on labelings in the second half of the program, specifically looking at food labels as well. I know, Elizabeth, that's something you'll be able to highlight. We get some more points from the audience in terms of actually, you know, going out there, and do you find that in terms of nutrition that we were just mentioning? I mean, Elizabeth, you mentioned that actually cooking at school is encouraged now, and do you find time to cook at home? How do you balance the sort of home-cooked food versus fast food?
Now, I mean, that's one point that I actually wanted to raise, was nowadays it's become so much more difficult. And you know, through advertising, you're just hit with so many different, you know, like sort of different things. You've got all these burger companies that, you know, no matter where you go, you've always got things sort of flashing in your faces. And especially for someone like me, I mean, you know, I have a long commute into work and I have a long commute back. There are some days where I just can't be bothered. And, you know, it is the easy option to kind of look at some of the, you know, some of the burger joints and what have you, and just go quickly get it out of the way. And I know it's not right. And, you know, it was something that you touched on. I know myself that it's not really right and I should really try and be a little bit more healthier. But there doesn't seem to be alternatives in like you know, like in the health food industry. There's nothing that you can really go and just pick up quickly, because pretty much everything that, you know, we're taught about having a healthy diet, a lot of it does take a little bit extra time. And, you know, again, when you're trying to fit in half an hour worth of fitness and food, how do you fit it all in?
Yeah. All right, fantastic. Turning to you as a GP, is this the sort of you know, information that you give to your patients? Do you have certain government directives about this is what you need to tell people?
Yeah, I think unfortunately a lot of GPs, just on the basis of time constraint, they don't give as much information to their patient in terms of diet as they should be doing. I think just I tend to spend a lot of time with patients to talk about diet anyway, because it's an interest of mine. And exactly what Elizabeth was saying is something that I start telling my patients. But more than that, it's also saying, if you're not going to be very active, if that's what's going to happen, even though I'm not advising you to not be active, if you're not going to be very active, then you actually have to eat less.
Right.
That's the only way that you're not going to put on weight, and vice versa. So it's about tailoring it to the individual as well. And so that certain groups, they want to become very fit. Certain people, they just want to have the bare minimum, that, you know, they don't want to be at this weight.
Right.
So it's tackling it in
it's about setting your own targets
way.
for yourself, because each person's different.
Exactly.
But just generally looking at the whole food industry as a whole, I mean, seems to be a huge battle going on between healthy foods and fast foods in terms of advertising. I mean, in terms of childhood obesity, a lot of people are saying that the main problem is that all the advertising is focused at children, and, you know, they're not able to actually make their own choices. What's your view on that? What's the battle between these sort of food agencies that are trying to push forward their product?
It's very difficult. There has been recently, you may have seen adverts, the healthy eating for life and activity, and it was aimed at children. It's a big problem, because if you look at statistics, in terms of children from the ages of 2 to 15, the children that are classified as overweight, it's actually 30% of children in the UK are classified as being overweight, and then about half of that amount are actually classified as obese. So it's a huge problem. There is a lot about the whole sedentary activity as well, like, for example, the computer games industry, and the whole fast food thing.
One thing about obesity, I mean, I seem to hear in the press that they refer to it as an epidemic. Is that true? Is it at that stage?
I would have to agree that it is an epidemic, really? Because it's been having an upward trend for the last sort of 20, 30 years. If you look at it, it's just going up and up and up.
Right.
And if it continues, then you're going to end up with almost half the population as being overweight or obese.
Right. Okay. James, just turning to you, I'm a bit confused there because some people seem to say that when you're a kid, you have time to run around and play, but at the same time, we're hearing that children are becoming more and more obese. So why is that? Are they not doing the right sorts of exercise, or they're not doing enough?
I think they're probably doing less than they were. There's definitely a drop in their lifestyle activity. There'll be more car travel, more bus travel. Back in, say, the 1970s, 1980s, the kids probably would have been allowed to get out and play more. There'd be less cars on the street, that sort of thing, and so they were allowed to get out and be more active. And certainly the diets have got worse. As you say, the marketing towards children is massive. Those companies have big marketing budgets. There's not a huge marketing budget for the healthy side of the food, so that is pervasive in childhood culture. All the kids will be out there drinking a can of Coke and having a Mars bar and going off for a Big Mac after school, and that is definitely increasing.
I mean, those sort of food agencies that are pushing that, don't you think it's actually their responsibility to be a bit more responsible with their advertising?
Absolutely, I think it's very wrong that they push it to that level. It's I do believe causing a problem. Obviously, the other side of things is the kids could be exercising more, and that's something that has to be addressed probably from a governmental level with schools, and making sure that PE is actually kept. And I think in some schools the number of hours of PE that's done in the week has dropped,
right.
and kids tend to be doing less extracurricular activities. So there needs to be a way to make people, especially children, enjoy what they're doing.
Yeah.
As your guest alluded to earlier, if you've got a commitment to a sport or a martial art, that is going to then ingrain that into the kids' life, and they're going to enjoy it, and they're going to achieve something, and it's going to become part of their life. So
definitely, what you're saying then is this parents' responsibility also to get the kids into a good habit from the start to last them for the future as well.
I think every kid should have something like that in their week, and they're missing something out of life if they're not doing a physical activity.
Okay. Elizabeth, just turning to you, something that's cropped up a few times. Some people are saying they can't afford to eat healthy. What would you like to say on that? Because it must be pretty cheap to pick up some fruit or something. I can't imagine it'll be too expensive to maintain a healthy balance.
I think you can make it either way, healthy and expensive, if you live healthily or unhealthily. Generally, there are a few tips you can just follow.
Could you share some with us today?
For example, we should base our meals on starchy foods, and they're usually the cheapest, like pasta, rice, potatoes. They're usually generally quite cheap. And some find fruits and vegetables a bit more expensive, but if you look around, shop around a little bit, and also go for fruits and vegetables that are in season, they're generally much cheaper. So if you buy in winter something that's totally out of season, of course you would pay a lot.
Right.
You can also eat frozen fruits and veg. Or if you buy meat, you can also try to look at cheaper, but still lean cuts of meat. So there are ways. Also, planning ahead is really important. If you kind of plan a few days ahead, it's easier for you to make a shopping list, go and stick to the list, and not buy extra foods where you spend extra money, or cooking bigger amounts of food. And even if you only have a single or a two-person household, you can make bigger batches and put them in the freezer.
We have a lot of viewers, actually, university students, that sort of age where they've moved out for the first time. Some of them aren't actually confident enough to cook their own meals, and they find that they go out to eat quite a lot. So in that situation, if you are having to go out and eat, what should you be aware of? What kind of food should you stay clear of? And actually, are fast food places giving healthy alternatives? Because now I see some of them are putting salads onto their menus and things like that. Is that going to make a difference?
It's a difficult question to answer in general, because from what I have the feeling is nowadays that foods, so-called fast foods, which is also a sandwich that I pick up somewhere, so it's not the classic burger and so on, that a lot of those places have really improved and are now offering healthy alternatives. Or if you get takeaway, if you go to your local Indian place and you order curry, they usually prepare it fresh, and you can ask them to use less fat, maybe, yeah, and use less salt and so on. So there are ways that you can eat things, fast food, or if you eat a baked potato, that's quite a healthy opportunity.
Yeah, please.
Just add what you were saying about the healthy alternative things. That there are places like the big fast food chains, I won't mention by name, but they've got the salads and things that they have. Yeah. But if you actually look at their sort of the nutritional values and the amount of calories, it's not far off from the burgers and the chips.
No, I read in one place that they had a salad, but if you actually put the dressing on it, it's actually more than a hamburger and little things like that.
So a lot of people, I think, they're misinformed. They think, okay, I'm going to go there and I'm going to have the salad, and I'm not going to have the burger, but I'm going to have the salad every day, and so I'm really healthy. But they're not. And so the whole point is actually having knowledge, and I think that's what Elizabeth was alluding to, that if you have the knowledge of what you're eating and how much roughly what the calorific values are, then you'll do a lot better. And also, it's not just about knowing what the quantities are. It's also maybe even thinking, can I eat a bit less? Right. And this is, I think, something that probably people don't want to admit or want to look at. But we're all eating big plates of food. A lot of us are now, and that's not how much we were eating maybe 100 years ago, when food was not as cheap and easily available. So that's maybe another thing that people need to look into.
I want to stay on fast food for just a bit more and turning to the audience. Someone who maybe hasn't made a point, Dave, just turning to you. I mean, do you eat at fast food restaurants, first of all?
Well, I'll have to admit that I do eat fast food.
Is it because of necessity, because you don't have the time, or you can't afford to eat healthier? Or why do you find?
You see, one of the things that I find is that living in the city, then you just have, as has been mentioned before, there's just a lot of access to fast food, particularly when you're on the go yourself. However, when I'm working in different locations, or even around London, then I'll find sometimes that I'm in a place where there are no fast food places around, and what that will force me to do is actually plan my lunch for that day beforehand. And so what I might do is make a sandwich or buy something from a supermarket that will actually last all day. I can't buy a burger in the morning and keep that with me till lunchtime. But I might buy like a pasta or something. So when you take away the convenience, then immediately I find for myself anyway that I'm making more healthy choices, because the food that is more healthy tends to last a bit longer through the day, fruit and things like this. So,
all right, fantastic. Let's get some more points we've got. So, do you want to add something to that?
Not so much. I mean, fast food obviously is a large portion of our lives when we're out, but focusing on something which, I think a lot of people from, from Asian homes face is that, obviously, the mother or the wife will cook your foods and what have you. So when you get home, dinner's on the table. Now, a lot of that type of food, I mean, I know my younger brother, who's a lot more stringent when it comes to that type of food, is always on at my mum saying, "Why is there so much oil in this food? Why is there so much this? Why is there so much that?" So
too much salt, too much oil, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, and then my mum will obviously naturally revert and say that's what makes it taste good.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's also about informing not just yourself but other members in your household, because then if they're doing exercise and those type of things, then when they know that they're eating this, it may actually make them think about what goes into food.
Yep. Okay. Let's get one point. You've got something to say.
At university, because I've just started recently, I've seen that, and it's in central London mainly, that there are a lot more food chains that are healthy food chains rather than the fast food ones. But the problem I see is that literally there is the burger or the fast food shop right next to the healthy one. And because more of the students and more people go to the fast food shops, their prices are lower. Right. So the healthy shops are almost double the price. So if I want to get a burger, it will be about £1. If I want to get a sandwich there, it will be £3-4. And because I'm in university, money is a big issue because of student loans and everything.
All right, thanks for that. Elizabeth, just turning to you just finally, I mean, we've talked about some people don't want to eat healthy because they simply can't afford it. But actually, what I find is when you eat healthy, you actually feel better as well. I know people who've lived out at university and they've eaten, fast food for months and months on end, and they've actually felt the effects. And they've realized that when I eat this type of food, I actually feel better, I feel more alert in lessons and things. And would that be, I guess, something that you would agree with?
Everything that is kind of too extreme, if you eat a very extreme diet and only eat on the go and only always the same kind of food, you're very likely to miss out on some really important nutrients.
Right.
So I think that you will definitely feel better if you get the balance right. Or for example, if you're a student and you skip breakfast, you're going to feel tired throughout the morning, and you are more likely to pick something up that's not as healthy. So if you start your day with breakfast, you will feel immediately more energetic. You perform physically better and also mentally better.
Yeah. So I guess what we're saying is that, I mean, in terms of you don't want to buy the healthy food because it's £2 more expensive, but in the long run, that £2 will
I totally
be of
agree
benefit
with
in the
you
end.
that you can, if you prepare your own lunch maybe at home and take it with you, you can make sure it is healthy and it is cheaper than anything you pick up. You can add some fruit, and it's really going to help you avoid buying stuff that maybe
fantastic. We just need to take a short break, but stay with us. We'll carry on the discussion in just a few moments, so don't go anywhere.
वक्त था वक्त मसीहा न किसी और का वक्त था वक्त मसीहा न किसी और का वक्त मैं न आता तो कोई और ही आया होता मैं न आता तो कोई और ही आया होता जिंदाबाद जिंदाबाद अहमदियत जिंदाबाद अहमदियत जिंदाबाद अहमदियत जिंदाबाद अहमदियत जिंदाबाद अहमदियत जिंदाबाद
Welcome back to part 2 of the program here today. We've been looking at modern lifestyle, health, fitness, and general well-being, and we're going to carry on that discussion right now. As I was telling to you before in the program, we looked at sort of what we can do on an individual level, but looking at general lifestyles and health, it affects everyone across the world, and different governments have dealt with it in different ways. Specifically looking in the UK. What sort of initiatives has the government actually brought out, and are they actually working?
The government has been trying for a number of years now in terms of for physical activity, but also looking at nutrition. So there's, for example, the Food Standards Agency have something called the Eat Well plate, which is a general guide of how you should be varying the amount of certain types of food on your plate. There's also the Eat Healthy and Stay Healthy, the physical active drives that they've had, so things like walking to work, especially, but also walking to school, which is the one specially aimed at children. Yeah. They've also had things like cycling initiatives as well, so cycling to work, and one of the audience members was discussing that as well. So there's been several initiatives aimed at that. The things more that I've been involved in general practice is also there are healthy lifestyles initiatives, so patients who we think might be at risk of further down the line developing things like cardiovascular disease or diabetes or those kind of things. We can actually try to intervene a bit earlier and get a dietitian involved in their care, and also having exercise on prescription. So that's basically whereby they will be referred to an organisation that will be doing classes, for example, with certain types of exercises. Quite basic, but it's something to get people involved in initially. So usually it will be people who are maybe obese or have certain risk factors that will get involved there. So.
James, do you sort of teach those sort of classes where people have actually joined because they've been prescribed by a GP to actually get more exercise?
I do some GP referral exercise, yeah. We are doing classes for people exactly in those situations where, you know, you're going to start at a more basic level, which is fine. As long as they're doing something and they're getting active, then that's improving their health. And gradually you can see them dropping weight and potentially even getting to a stage where they're doing the same sort of exercise that someone who's been in the gym for the last few years might do.
And do you find, I mean, there must be people joining that who haven't, you know, maybe done much exercise before previously. When they get used to exercise, how do they find it? Do they actually, you know, respond positively to it?
Yeah, definitely. And once they've got through the initial stage, which tends to be quite a mental barrier, you know, people are a bit worried about it, and you know, the whole idea of exercise seems to be this big sort of scary block for them. And it doesn't have to be like that. You know, what we do is very simple and fun. You know, we play games. We, you know, even throwing balls around, simple stuff. It's not like your hardcore army training. We're going to do 500 sit-ups, 20 press-ups, go, go, go.
Because that's the stereotype some people always have. They have that fear of going to the gym or joining an exercise club because they don't know what it's really going to be like, and you know, they might be pushed to breaking point. Some people, I think, are actually
scared of that. You can see why they wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it doesn't have to be like that. And I think that's definitely a message that needs to get out there to these people that are in the risk factors. You know, they don't have to come in and train like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's not what it's about.
Okay, so we're talking about initiatives. I mean, use people living in the UK. How have you found these initiatives, and do they actually affect you on a day-to-day level?
You see, I work in the medical field myself, and we've been talking about obesity. One of the issues that comes up with people who are obese or overweight that we hear about a lot is that it's the same kind of thing that you hear from people who are smokers or drink alcohol heavily, is that they go through a period where they can lose their weight or stop their addictive behavior, but then they find that they put the weight back on after, you know, a few years or a few months, and the fact that they put back on the weight, it seems to happen very easily, and it's not something that they can control very well. So I don't know, particularly from like a medical point of view, that, you know, what's the truth behind that?
I think this is a problem with people going on sort of like fad dieting or having these big drives of where they'll join the gym and they'll maybe go to the gym for about 3 months and then it stops. The problem with weight maintenance is not actually going on that diet and then the weight will stay off.
Right.
Because if you go on that diet and you go back to your original lifestyle before you went on the diet, you will put all the weight back on. And it comes down to pure numbers. It's a numbers game. It's how much you know, calories you're taking in and how much output you're having from your activity. So I think a lot of people, and I think James will probably know about this, is you know, that they'll join the gym or they'll be part of this you know, really active lifestyle for about 3 months, and then it will just stop. And if you stop that, you will put the weight back on. So the way to combat that is actually incorporating it into your lifestyle, into your daily lifestyle on a permanent basis.
I mean, James, yeah.
You're totally right. It's about finding something that you want to do and you actually enjoy that as part of your week that you can do permanently. There's no point, literally no point in coming in, working hard for 2 months and then leaving. It doesn't do anything really in the long run. You know, it's probably better than sitting on the sofa, but you know, what you need to do is have a life that is healthy and vital. You know, if you feel the energy from doing the exercise, you know, for a couple of months, then you should take that feeling and realise that that's actually going to be something positive for your whole life. And you don't need to be in the gym 5 times a week, pushing weights and doing whatever. You just need to do something that's actually healthy and enjoyable. That maybe
where does that point come? I mean, if you're sort of living a certain lifestyle, you got used to that. When do you get to the point where you think, actually, do you know what, I may be putting on weight or something, or I don't feel as active as I was before, I need to do more? For a lot of people, they prefer just to ignore it. You know, oh, I'm just getting older, it's fine, it's what comes with it. But how do you actually get that spark of enthusiasm within you to actually go out and make a lifestyle change? Because that's what we're talking about right now. I mean, we've mentioned obesity being an epidemic and that the numbers are going to increase. So to stop that, obviously we have to have, you know, a real change in lifestyle. So how do we actually get that change going?
Everyone needs that moment of inspiration to get into the gym. If you come to me into the gym and say, James, I want to start doing something and feel like I'm not really moving properly,
right,
I can do that for you, but unless you come into the gym, I'm never going to see you. So it's a case of getting that inspiration into people's heads. Maybe it's going to be an advertising campaign, something like the government health campaigns. Maybe that's going to be a moment where you see a sport or something happening and you think, no, I want a piece of that. But you know, that needs to happen for more people, and hopefully we can get it happening earlier down the line, before it becomes a problem. You know, that's when people normally have that inspiration. It's a negative inspiration. I've gone to see the GP and I am officially obese.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, let's go to the gym.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, there's two ways of really dealing with that. Maybe you have that experience. Some people might take it in a negative way, and there's other people actually a bit more sort of upbeat and think, you know, Joe, I want to change this. I want to turn this around. Is that something that you notice?
Yeah, I mean, you get some people who really do. It's like that realization point. So they think, oh no, this is really bad, and I've got to do something to change this. And people will have that at different points, and it's a difficult thing. And you could even compare it to, I mean, I know we're not talking about smoking, but you could compare it to smoking. People know from when they're children, they know that it's bad for you. They all know. And lots of people still do it, and it becomes an addiction. And a lot of people only end up giving up when they have this awful chest infection, or they can't breathe very well, and they start thinking, oh, or some relative gets lung cancer, something like that. So that's a realization point. That will work for certain groups of people, and that will maybe work for adults. But the aim of the game is actually, from a young age, for people's attitudes to be completely different, so that their attitudes are that we want to be healthy, we want to do things in a good, balanced way. And that's the challenge. That's difficult because that incorporates the schools, parents, and so it's a lot more multifactorial, whereby, you know, the person who is maybe in their 30s or 40s and they're thinking, okay, you know, I'm starting to get unwell, it's a bit easier for them to maybe I'm saying a bit easier for them to turn it around, but on an individual basis, you know, it can happen fairly easily for some, and for some it can be really hard. So.
And there must be so many examples where people have turned, you know, their lives around and made a difference.
There are some amazing cases, and I saw a patient who just a couple of months ago, and he was quite big, and he had really high cholesterol, and I just spoke to him about his diet and asked him what does he do, and we had a brief chat about cardiovascular disease, and he completely, within a couple of months, he just stopped drinking alcohol because he's drinking quite in excess. He just made a few changes, and he lost kilos of weight, and you know, he was able to do that quite easily just by a brief chat about cardiovascular disease. But that's because he wasn't even thinking about it, so that was an easy one. But I think the people who know about it, they know what it's doing, that's the harder group, and it's very challenging.
Elizabeth, yeah, we'd like to add something to that.
Say something. It is really hard to lose weight and maintain it. You're totally right, especially if you go on a crash diet, as you said, and you can't maintain it. So you do have to make changes that you can keep. But I think even more importantly for everyone is to try not to put on weight over time. We are often not aware. We put on a kilo in a year and we don't really see it. And also most people who put on weight only eat an excess of about 70 to 100 calories a day, which is not much at all. And if you just don't take the bus and walk 15 minutes home, that's about 70 calories.
All right, let's turn to the audience. Let's get some points. Right, Shiraz, you had your hand up earlier on.
I just wanted to expand upon the point that Elizabeth made, really, regarding balance, and I think that's a very key issue. You know, going to either extremes is obviously going to cause problems, whether it be sort of not eating as much or eating too much. And in Islam itself, it teaches the middle way is the best way. So I think that's a very key point to address, that eating right and eating sort of going down the middle route is probably the best way
Keeping
forward.
that moderation in hand.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, we've got 1 point here at the front. What would you like to add to the discussion?
I think personally, to reduce obesity, we need to exercise more. And personally, as a student, when I was doing my GCSE, according to my timetable, we only done PE, as you were saying, once in a week. 1 hour a week, which thinking about it is not that much. And plus after school activities. If you wanted to join after school clubs, it was either football, swimming, rugby. But in a way, you had to be the best to join because as a school, they had a reputation to keep. And there wasn't really an encouragement of...
I mean, at your school, did they actually address the issue of obesity? Did they talk about exercise enough and what foods to eat?
It wasn't encouraged that much.
Okay.
And really, we have to find the time now. We have to get into a habit now to keep it maintained throughout our life. Otherwise, we will end up in obesity.
Okay, one more point. Rafa, you haven't said anything. If you'd like to just add something.
To mention a point again about the balance. What I realized when I was working out, I didn't eat properly, but was working out, I couldn't see any results. This was due to the fact because I was eating wrong.
So were you going to a gym regularly or working at home?
And I made some time out for that as well.
Right.
But the key point is having a proper diet and working out gives you the best results, no matter in what time scale you're planning it.
So it's about keeping that balance.
Yes.
So I mean, in the example of someone who is at home, maybe they're working a lot, they do a lot of they do an office job or something, they're sat down a lot of the time. Are there certain exercises or maybe some stretches or something that you could actually demonstrate for us today that maybe
there's definitely some stuff you can do.
Yeah, do you want to, we've got some space here if you'd like to just give us some practical advice.
I might need a volunteer to help me.
I'm sure there's someone here who's
sure you don't want to join in?
More than willing. Yeah, come on.
Okay, calm down.
If you like, just...
All right, so if you can take a spot there, I'm not too swayed. So we'll just run through a couple of exercises that you might be able to do at home. Even if you got home at the end of a busy day, you could spend 20 minutes doing something like this. Obviously, you want to warm up to start with. I would suggest maybe putting on a song, something you like, and having a little dance around the room for a bit, 3 to 5 minutes. You know, you're at home, no one's watching. And then we get into more sort of movement-based exercises. So we start with a wide squat. So feet wide and toes slightly pointing out, head up nice and tall. And just as simple as that, you're getting the big muscles working. You want everything nice and in line, legs down to your toes.
Now for this, I mean, do you have to wear specific clothing or, you know, even if you're out?
You could do it like this if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to get a bit sweaty, so you might want to wear a normal t-shirt or something like that, not your work clothes. But yeah, you know, if you just got home from work, you could get changed and start making some lunges there, so nice and balanced. And you can feel the big muscles working.
Rafi, how do you feel while you're doing this?
Yeah, you can feel the squats.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, you want to get your legs and your upper body, everything working together because that's the most efficient way to burn calories. Okay, so you've got something like that. You could even turn it into a twist, so you're moving your upper body over the front leg. That's it. And then you've got things like your old classic press-ups. So let's go for 10. Okay. So that's it, good.
And the people watching this here, what do you think? Is this something you're going to do at home? Is this something maybe you guys do? Who's got the microphone at the moment? Charles, what do you think?
I mean, I think things like this, what Saf touched upon earlier regarding sort of activities which are sort of individual based, you need some form of motivation to do that. Now, obviously, with 2 people there, you know, you can work against each other. You know, you could push each other to, right, you've got to do 10, you've got to do 20. It'll give you that motivation to go and do that. Whereas if you're at home on your own, I don't think it would be something that would be, I guess, tangible, because no one would actually go and do that.
Rafa, if we can just get the microphone to you, how did you feel doing that? Was it good? Does it get you out of breath a bit?
Definitely. Or it really helps. And you can still hear me.
Put you through your paces a bit. But I mean, is that something that you would do at home if you got 5 minutes spare? Is that something you'd actually...
This really helps, actually. Sparing out like 10 minutes can re-improve your fitness over a long time.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for joining in with that. James, we've had a look at some of the examples there of different exercises. What about warming up as well? Is that something that's necessary even for that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're at home, it's still worth doing it. You know, you're not quite in the gym situation, but you know, you can feel that you're actually out of breath and that your muscles are working a little bit. So you still need to work with the proper principles of exercise. You know, it doesn't need to be really over-organised, but you know, like I say, put on some music, have a little dance around. Just do anything that gets your body moving, gets the blood flowing around your veins and your heart rate up. That is necessary for you to do any sort of exercise, and then you can then go on and do a few rounds of press-ups, a few rounds of squats, a few rounds of lunges, and work around. It doesn't need to be complicated. You do 3 or 4 exercises in a circuit, have a little rest, and keep going back round. You can do that 3 or 4 times. You know, obviously, you're limited to what you've got in the house, but it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to be doing the world's most intelligent exercise to get a workout.
So basically what you're saying is just a little bit each day will help you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Elizabeth, just turning to you. I mean, earlier on in the program, we were talking about food labeling, and some people find it quite difficult to differentiate what food is healthy. I know there's a few schemes at the moment, especially in this country, where if you look on a packet of food, there's certain red, yellow, and green icons. I mean, I've noticed that, but should we look at those, and how accurate are those? Could you just shed some light on that?
The traffic light system that you were referring to is basically showing us if a food is high or low or medium in certain nutrients. And it is still hard to judge, you know, how much can I eat of that and so on. But it helps you kind of get an idea of what is in a product. And even I'm sometimes surprised, you know, when you have a sandwich or something, and so there are such big differences if you compare them, and that's what they're actually for.
Right.
If you want to buy something, and you don't exactly know what's in there, like sandwiches or ready meals or anything that you don't prepare from scratch.
Food,
it's just easy to compare it, and sometimes you get half the calories in a sandwich than in another sandwich, and that can make a really big change.
I mean, you've mentioned calories. I mean, that seems to be, everyone's talking about calories and reducing the number of calories. I've also heard of RDAs, and there's a few different terms like that. Could you just explain those? I mean, if you're trying to cut down, for example, on your weight, should you just be looking at calories, or are there other factors?
Not only. Like, in the end, you only put on weight if you eat too many calories. You lose weight if you eat fewer calories or burn more calories. So it does come down to that. But having said that, if you have, for example, a gram fat contains twice as many calories as a gram protein or a gram carbohydrates. So if you eat foods that are very high in fat, then they are what we call very energy dense. So for 100 grams, let's say, they contain more energy than if you have another food that is lower in fat or high in water.
All right, we're just coming to the end of the program. James, turning to you, final remarks, and we've got people watching. I hope they've taken something from the little physical demonstration that we had, but I mean, we've got people all over the world that watch, who have different sort of lifestyles. What would be your general sort of remark to close off the discussion today?
Well, I'd say it's as we've mentioned, balance, and as you mentioned, the middle way is the best, to find a bit of everything that works for you. Yes, exercise, yes, nutrition. Don't obsess about either one of them, but do both well. And to find something that you enjoy doing, it's got to be fun, and try and put a bit of life into it. Yeah. You should look forward to being healthy. You know, it shouldn't be a duty that you have to perform because someone's told you. It should be something you look forward to.
Okay, all right. And Elizabeth, just a final little quick remark.
I can only agree to this. Try to have a balance. And if you slip, or if you have a day where you think you have absolutely indulged on something, that's fine, just as long as you stick to the balance overall.
Okay, fine. And Azza, just briefly, how would you like to end the discussion today?
I would just like to say that there is no shortcut to healthy living, and people who try to do those, they're not going to succeed. The only way you're going to do it, it needs to be a permanent part of your everyday lifestyle, so that includes the activity and the eating well and balanced food.
All right, fantastic. Thank you all for joining us today in the program. I know there's loads more issues that we wanted to cover. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But for those of you who are watching at home, don't forget that you can always add in your comments as well. Visit our website, mta.tv/realtalk. We'll try and put some links up there to some of these websites as well, where you can find out more information about the topic. And don't forget that you can catch up on previous issues there. We'll be back with more Real Talk programs in the future. We've got a lot more interesting topics ready and waiting, so I hope you can join me then. But until then, Assalamu alaikum.